So we'll start with our chapter number 12, which is on services marketing. And before we get into what really services marketing is and what that means, I'm going to show you a few pictures. And what I want you all to do here is I want you to think about what all of these pictures or what all of these scenarios have in common. So I'm just going to run through these pictures, and please think about what's common in these. And you might already have an idea about that, but yes, here we go. So hairdresser, a financial advisor, a rock star, a pop star, a psychiatrist, doctors and nurses, bank tellers, a professor lecturing, automotive technician, the airline cabin crew, or a janitor. So what do you think all of these have in common? I want you all to think about it. Just take this in, look at those pictures. If you want, pause the video here, look at the pictures, and think about what they have in common. So all of these are basically services. They're all service providers, and they're providing services to the customers. What do we mean by services? These are intangible activities or benefits that an organization provides to consumers in exchange of money or something else of value. So um, the goods that we had talked about until now, the products that we had talked about until now, were really tangible products where you could touch them, you could see them, but when we talk about services, these are intangible activities that the consumer cannot see. But the organization still, the businesses still provide these benefits to the consumers, these intangible benefits to the consumers. And we're going to talk more about this. So there are four elements of services, and these are called four I's. We call them four I's because they all start with I. And these four I's, the intangibility, inconsistency, inseparability, and inventory, which we're going to discuss in detail one by one, these make services unique. These make services unique as compared to the goods. So as compared to goods like a cell phone, a refrigerator, a toothpaste, or any good that you can think of for that matter, whatever tangible good you can think of. So these are the four I's that make services unique and different from the goods. So we're going to talk about them one by one. The first one is intangibility, and we already see that it's in the definition of services. Basically, intangibility means that you cannot hold, touch, or see a product before you make the purchase decision. So it cannot be held, touched, or seen by the consumer before making the purchase decision. So if you think about all of these services that we talked before, like for example, the first picture here shows the psychiatrist or the doctors or the bank tellers or the hairdressers or the singers. All of these are giving a product to the customer, which the customer cannot hold, touch, or see before they have made the purchase. You need to go to a salon for haircut. You need to make a purchase. You need to go and sit there on the chair and get the haircut done. Uh, and then only then you will realize, you will know the quality of the service that you have received. So that is one of the elements of services, that's intangibility. The consumers want to know about the quality of the product, the service, before they make the purchase decision. Now, because of this, how do we strategize? How do the marketers strategize if you're not allowing, if the, it's not about allowing, but if the nature of the services is such that the consumer cannot hold, touch, or see the product before making the purchase decision. In such a scenario, how do the marketers, what strategy should the marketers create? So the strategy that the marketers should focus on is called, as it's called, tangibilizing the intangible. Now, what does that mean? We're going to just look at a few examples to understand what tangibilizing the intangible means. Let's look at an example of a hotel room. If you think about it, what do you use what's the basic product when you go and spend a night at a hotel? What's the basic product, or the core product of theirs, or what's their core offering? Is basically spending the night, right? They're giving you a room to spend the night in, which is, as you can see, it's an intangible offering, right? It's an intangible thing that you're offering to the consumers. Unless and until the consumers have stayed in the room, they won't be able to evaluate the quality of that service, because they haven't held, they cannot hold this service of spending the night. That doesn't make any sense. They cannot touch it, they cannot see it. So until they have really made the purchase decision, they have bought they have booked the room and they've stayed there, they won't be able to evaluate the quality. So how do you strategize is you try to, again, going back to tangibilize the intangibles. That is, if you go to a hotel and in the lobby, you look at the furniture there, you look at how clean they have kept the lobby, you look at all the decoration material that they have used in there, and that's kind of going to give you an idea of the quality of your spending the night in the how the quality of your spending the night in the room, in the hotel room, is going to be. When you go to your room, you look at how the beds are, you look at the lighting there, like you can see table lamps over there, you can see how the room looks, you can see the furniture, you can see the view from your room, and all of those are basically adding to the quality of, again, the core product, which is spending the night in the hotel room. It's all adding to the quality of the service in the consumer's mind. You also see swimming pools in the hotels, and that's also because they want to tangibilize the intangibles. So that's what they're doing here too. One more example of this that we can discuss here is the airline. For the airline business, you see what's the core product in there is basically transportation, moving from one place to another, which again is an intangible offering. You cannot evaluate the quality unless you have really purchased the ticket and you're there on the airplane and you have actually traveled from one place to another. So how do they tangibilize the intangibles is, you can see the bottom picture, it shows the lounge of the airlines. They try to, again, use the furniture, the lighting, and everything that goes in there to tangibilize the intangible service of moving from one place to another, or going from one place to another. Also in the airplane, you'll see the seating, you'll see the leg space that they provide, the seats that they have used, whether they are comfortable or not, or they have these small video panels. All of that is adding to the quality of the intangible product of theirs. In a hotel, sorry, in a restaurant, the again the intangible is being tangibilized by the furniture, the lighting, the layout of the restaurant, and so on. Even the food is they try to tangibilize the food by putting it in a nice plate and decorating it um, as much as they can, and that's again because they want to tangibilize the intangible. So this was the first I, intangibility. The second I is inconsistency. What does that mean? In order to understand that, first, what we're going to talk about is that uh, because these services are, and whenever you talk about services, there are people involved in services, and because services depend on the people who provide them, and because there are people and these are not machines, their quality can vary with each person's capabilities and day-to-day job performance. So these machines that manufacture products will perform in the same way every time. So that's consistent. You get the exact same product from a particular type of machine or a factory. But in case of services, because these depend on the people who provide them, there's not going to be consistency. There's inconsistency in developing, pricing, promoting, and delivering the service. There's variability in all of those because there are people involved. Okay, so now we're going to again discuss a few examples. For example, if you make a call in a customer care, you might find somebody who's really happy on that day and is trying to give you their services in a very happy mood, and there might be some other person, some other service provider who's not very happy, is in a sad, he has some personal problems going on. So you will basically see inconsistency because there are two different people involved. Now, even if there's just one person involved, so let's assume these two girls are the same girl. The top one is the same girl on day one, and the top and the bottom one is the same girl on day two. So again, because services involves people, people have different moods, they have their own personal things going on. There are a lot of other factors that can make their performances inconsistent on two different days, on two different hours, or with two different people. So that again shows how there can be inconsistency in services. Same for restaurants. You can look at the pictures and see that some you might find some grumpy or some service providers or some servers happy, or some weird servers and so on. So again, inconsistency in services. Now, what can we do about it? What can we do with people behaving differently with different customers, or with the same customer or the same person, same service provider behaving differently with the same customer at two different points of time? What can we do about that is the strategies that are involved here are standardization and training. We need to provide training to the employees and set some standardized procedures that they have to follow. So whenever you go to let's say McDonald's, and then you'll hear everybody saying welcome to McDonald's, that's because they've standardized that. They have asked the employees to do that whenever a customer comes in. So that's a way to take care of the inconsistency. The third I is inseparability. What does that mean? And in order to understand that, we're going to go through some examples. Basically, consumers cannot separate the deliverer of the service from the service itself. And let's look at the examples. For example, you can see here the entertainers are producing entertainment and the audience is consuming entertainment at the same time. So you cannot separate the service providers, which is the entertainers here, from the service, which is, the entertainment, the music that's going on in there. So you cannot separate that. And that's why it's inseparable. The services are inseparable. Same way, a consultant giving advice and the client is consuming advice at the same time. So you cannot separate the consultant's advice from the advice that he's giving. Inseparable. Now, we do have co-created services. We have some variations in inseparability. They do not always have to be separate. For example, you can record the consultant's advice and then later on hear it. So that can kind of show that how it's separable. Or you can record what's going on in the entertainment, the music or the entertainment business. You can get these DVDs, or you can get recorded programs. That also shows that this may not always, the services may not always be inseparable. So there are different variations in that. But yes, in general, as we can see, these are mostly inseparable. When and even in the inseparability, you can have some co-created services where both firm and customer are involved, and you can have firm-generated services where there's less involvement from customers. And we're going to look at a few examples. So for co-created services, one example is a food joint where you have this kind of a setup where you get all these food items in there, and you can choose and pick and choose whatever you want to have in your meal. So that's kind of a co-created service where the consumer as well as the firm is involved, because the firm is definitely involved because it has provided you with so many options, and the customer is also involved because they're kind of creating their own meal there by picking and choosing what they want and what they do not want. Same with the haircut, for example, in a salon. It's a co-created service because you tell the hairdresser what you want, and the hairdresser is going to keep checking back with you. Basically, she's the one here in the picture who's providing the service, but at the same time, she's going to involve the customer as well, and taking inputs from them and seeing what they want and what they do not want, and make changes accordingly. So that's also a co-created service. For the car servicing, for example, it's more of a firm generated service because there's less involvement from consumers in there, because the type of the nature of service that a technician provides really does not need much from the consumer. The involvement is less because they know better, the technicians know better. Um, and the same for the hotel business. You'll have less involvement from the consumers. You're going to just provide them with the rooms, for example, based on whatever is available, or based on different other factors, and that's also mainly firm generated service. It has started to become a co-created service where they're trying to give consumers option of selecting which, out of different options. If you go online and want to book a hotel on, let's say, Expedia, you'll find that they give you some options to select from, and you can do that. So they're just trying to become a co-created service now. So those were the examples of inseparability and how they can be, within inseparability, they can be co-created services or firm generated services. The last I is inventory, and we're going to cover this in the next topic.